make it. What day is it today? March 3rd. We are at 9:10 a.m. in Korea. So I woke up at like 5:30. Wow. I slept for like 3 hours. So very hardcore morning. And we have a lot of news to cover today, but I don't think we can. I'm sure you guys heard about the SM hype thing. More updates. I don't think I can cover that today because we have so much stuff to talk about. But I will be back on Tuesday. So we will be doing these live streams Tuesday and Friday at 9 a.m., 9:30 a.m. ish. So if you guys want to join, that's the time, 9:30 a.m. KST. But I just started this earlier because why not? Yeah, this SM hype thing is way too complicated. Yes, actually we made like a whole 30-minute video, and I finished editing it, but David said let's not post it. So it's up on Patreon. If you want to go to Patreon, you can go there and watch that video. I've been uploading like crazy on Patreon. I've uploaded like 30 videos like in the past four weeks, I think. So that's where all the action is at. Hello everybody. Okay. Yes. So yeah, go on over to Patreon if you want. And let's just go with the news. Okay. So let's just talk about some lighthearted news. I talked about this on our Patreon live stream yesterday, and actually I wanted to ask you guys a question. So politician faces controversy for writing lewd fanfic featuring IU. So this guy is a South Korean politician, Chang Ye-chan. And he's a fantasy writer. He's a writer. Yeah, he's a writer. And he writes web novels. And in his web novel called Gangnam Hwata, it follows the story of a doctor who helps patients recover through sexual intercourse. Now, one female patient in the novel is named Lee, which is IU's actual name, and in the I read parts of it, and in the actual novel, in the web novel, it depicts her as a singer that cannot sing high notes, so she comes to this doctor for a cure. So yeah, it's actually very blatant that it is IU in the fanfic. I've brought up some. I had something. Okay, let me just look it up. Cause I found it. I found the. Okay. Huh. Yeah. So basically, in the web novel, it talks about like how she can't do the 3-step high pitches, which is like if you listen to IU's "Good Day," it's an iconic song of IU. She has this part where it's like I'm in my dream, that part, and literally the lyrics of that part is in the web novel, and also, for whatever reason, I think this writer has an obsession with the Audi A5 because I read this one paragraph in an excerpt, and the protagonist, he describes the protagonist, and his main trait is that he drives an A5, Audi A5. And literally the Audi A5 is mentioned in every single sentence. But that's not important. What I wanted to ask, since yesterday was, is this sexual harassment? Is this sexual harassment? Do you think this is sexual harassment? Writing of fanfics about real people is super weird. I strongly dislike that he has the same name as me. Okay. As long as he doesn't hurt anyone. Yeah, it's a little bit in the gray area. I don't think this is sexual harassment personally. Okay, so this is my take. If he's like sending his work to IU, that might like qualify as sexual harassment, but he's just like, putting this up on the internet. And in that sense, even if it involves real characters, I don't know if that can be considered sexual harassment. It's weird, but I don't know if it's sexual harassment. He should have stayed anonymous and not have made it obvious who it was he was writing about. Debatable and weird. So there's actually this really famous writer that in Korea. His name is Ma Kwang-soo. He was a professor at Yonsei University, and it's this guy. And basically his entire work is about sex. Like he's been like, all his novels are about sex and just very vulgar. And apparently his classes were extremely popular. And he wrote a novel about a student. He wrote a novel about one of his actual students and her sexual journey. And I believe that got published. And I don't know, like whenever I read his stuff, I feel like it's more of for shock value than really anything. But he's a very prolific writer. So if he does it, it's okay. He's like respected in Korea. But if this guy does it with IU, then it's not okay. Did he have her consent to do that? I don't believe so. I don't think so. I don't think he cared, because what he claimed was like, oh, like sex should be something that's just, out in the open, and people have to just accept that it's the driving force of life. Ironically, he killed himself a few years ago. And the funny thing is, like, in the novel, in his novel with this student, his actual student. I believe she ends up fucking the professor, which doesn't say it's him, but obviously it's him. So yeah, if that's okay, I guess. He's a writer, he doesn't need consent, lol. Yeah, that's the thing though. Like, if you're writing a novel about stuff, even if it's like real life stuff, like, do you need consent? Do you need consent? What if, okay, so I used to do this when I play The Sims. Like, say I have this girl that I really like, and I'm like 12 or even 25. I don't know, like 35. There's this girl that you really like at work, and you play The Sims, and you make her have like 10 babies with you. Do you need consent for that? I don't think so. Is having a real life person marry you and have like 20 babies with you and fuck you all the time and in The Sims, is that okay? What if I post that to the world? It's fiction. I don't know, like it's very complicated. So yeah, this politician actually stood ground, even though everybody in his party is criticizing him and telling him to apologize. He says, what kind of movie, drama, webtoon, or novel can be made if the problem is the content of the fantasy novel? Are directors, writers, and actors who make or appear in movies, dramas now social troublemakers? Should writers of webtoons and web novels be criticized for the content of their work? If people die in novels and movies, does that make the author a mass murderer? If there's a best scene, does that mean there's a problem with gender sensitivity? I'm proud of my history as a web novel and webtoon writer. I'll break new ground against the prejudices of politicians against arts and culture. Yeah. It's very complicated. But in all honesty, I feel like considering everything that's like, I feel like if this is something that should be punished, then that sets a very slippery slope for other material. Like, there's a lot of like movies in Korea that are, and drama based on real life characters that don't have their consent, obviously, of having their movie made. And you can clearly tell like that it's based on those specific characters. Like, for example, Reborn Rich, that's based on the Samsung family. Obviously, they didn't go and ask the Samsung family if they could use their likeness and their family history, but they prototype the entire family around the Samsung family. So if using a likeness in a novel requires consent, then does that mean we can't make dramas like that? Or there's lots of actually dramas that portray the dictatorship in the 80s. There was this dictator named Chun Do-an that killed a lot of people, and there's these like fantasy movies that are about killing him, and he was alive when these movies came out. Like they there's a lot of movies that are about like assassinating him and taking revenge on him, and they don't ask for his permission. So I'm not saying IU is a dictator or anything, but yeah, it's I feel like if this can be punished, then that could potentially be punished, because like, hey, I didn't consent to getting killed or using my likeness in a movie, right? So and look, there's DKDK TV stories on Wattpad. David X Top, inspired by David Kim of DKDK TV on YouTube. He does reaction videos and vlogs. They are amazing. Good morning, TOP says, touching softly David's cheek. David felt it, morning, and slowly opened his eyes. Then he recognized that it was TOP. OMG. Top smiled at him. Come here, lay with me. Wait, I appear in this? Danny was still sleeping until David went to his room and woke him up together with Sungni and GD. I didn't consent to this. I didn't consent to this. Fanfic of Danny and David from DKDK TV. Sauna. Oh. What are you hiding, Danny? Your dildos? Oh, that's it? That was underwhelming. Oh, this picture. Oh my god. That's me. When I was like 25. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Oh. Wow, they even embedded our YouTube video. Wow. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's I don't think it's as simple as, if you had to have consent to write fanfic, then there will be no fanfic, right? If you had to have consent to fanfic, then there would be no fanfic. So, okay, I have another question. So say you're really into Harry Potter. is it wrong for like a, an adult to read some sexual fanfic? I'm not saying I do this. I'm just saying is it wrong for an adult to read like sexual fanfic about, like, I don't know, Hermione and Malfoy or something like that? Is it wrong, do you think? Yes, it's wrong. Hmm. Interesting. Harry or I don't think that's wrong. Hmm. Is it wrong to enjoy? I read Draco and Harry, so I cannot judge. Okay, so say you're a 17-year-old and then you were really into Harry Potter fanfic. And then you turn 18. Should you stop reading Harry Potter fanfic? Hmm. Interesting. It's fiction, so it's all imagination, right? People say that it's wrong, are young or conservative or repressed. Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. I'll be honest, like, I didn't read Harry Potter fanfic. At least not when I was on it. I read it like when I was like really young, like when Harry Potter was the shit. And it was still like an ongoing series as books, and people were like lining up to buy books. I was like, really deep into Harry Potter at that time. But when I was in the military, like, we don't have access to the internet. At least in my time, we didn't have access to the internet except for outside work hours. So during work hours, we only had the internal, we call it the intranet. So it's an internal network. And you can't really upload any videos or anything like that. There's no way. But there were some parts of the military internal network where enlisted soldiers were uploading like fanfic about girl groups, and very, very, very sexual, extremely sexual. And they were like being it's kind of like prison, like in prison you like, cigarettes are the currency. in the military, those kind of fanfics were, if you had them, you were extremely popular. People asked for them. I'm sure they don't do that now because they have phones and they're probably watching porn every day. But in those days, they were being traded like currency. And only a few people knew like where to look for in the intranet. There were very specific hidden boards that you had to look, and they were tucked away in a corner. But they would upload these text files. So the thing that, I read a few, but the thing that I realized was, usually like, it's really hard to captivate an audience if you're writing like these extremely sexual fanfics, because like once you do it, I think it's all about like like the lead up. But once they start doing it, it's like it becomes like a, it loses its point after like the deed is done. And then like the rest of like 40 chapters is them just doing it again and again, and then you kind of get desensitized. So I read a few, and then I realized, okay, these stories are all the same. Yeah. Didn't Twilight start out as a fanfic? No, 50 Shades of Grey started out as a fanfic. Yeah. Yeah, these fanfics with weird sex scenes is so odd to me. Yeah. I'm just surprised the guy that wrote this kind of stuff is running to be a politician. It's not what you normally have. Anyway, okay, on to the next topic. You guys, she created her characters in 50 Shades. Yeah. You guys are very conservative. You guys feel uncomfortable with me talking about this? Okay. Next news. Sam Ochiri apologizes for his words 3 years ago. So he appeared on this TV show Attack of the Onnis, and he basically said, I'm really sorry that I disappointed everybody who loved me. I want to apologize to people who suffered because of my mistakes. I want to return the love that I received in Korea, but people tell me that I should go back to Ghana, and now I don't know what to say. So if you guys don't know, the entire story was, these kids, this particular high school in Korea, they have a tradition of basically taking yearbook photos with memes and trends that were relevant in that particular year. So they're very famous for this. Like the yearbook gains national attention. So that particular year, 2020, they had the coffin dance meme, and they did blackface, and Sam called it out, and Korean people were infuriated because they were like, hey, who are you to try to educate us? Well, he's a black man. And I guess what led to this whole thing was that the coffin dance people, like, they showed appreciation for this. So Korean people felt like, hey, if the original people, they like it, then why are you budging in and saying this is not okay? So yeah, and then they like literally just dug everything up about him and buried him to the ground. So he was just hardcore canceled, and he hasn't been on TV. This is like his first TV appearance in over 2 years, so it's quite significant. And it was just sad because, like, this my guy, I wanted to interview him. I really wanted to interview him. And I heard, I believe he wanted to be on our channel too. Yeah, he wanted to be on our channel too. So interview him. Unfortunately, David at that time like was worried that we get canceled, so I couldn't. But anyway, yeah. So this guy has been hardcore canceled, and the problem is like, okay, even after his apology, which I don't think his apology was needed to begin with, but he appeared on this Jubilee show, and people found an issue. People found this to be an issue because in one of the questions, they were talking about like, does Korea have cancel culture? And he was like, oh, hard agree, yes. And he basically said, oh, I couldn't get a job for 2 years because I was so hardcore canceled. So people were like, okay, you apologized, you said sorry, but you said sorry, but you're going on this other English channel and saying Korea is bad. So these people are, I feel like, hardcore nationalist or something. Yeah. It's just very, very sad. The fuck. It's yeah, it's very unfortunate. I gotta say, like, when I saw that whole thing unfold, I was like, wow, it must really suck to be somebody that's not, I mean, it sucks for me to watch that, but like, it must really suck if you're not Korean and then you're watching that and you're seeing like, okay, if you even make the slightest criticism about Korea, you're gonna like get your job you're gonna lose your job, because he was like really loved by Korean people, and if you make the slightest criticism, you're gonna lose your job, they're gonna kick you out, and they're gonna tell you to go back to where you came from. So it must really suck. And I gotta say, like, this, I don't know how big of a portion these vocal people are, but if he made slanted eyes before, and he said he didn't mean to be racist to Asians. So yes, the Korean students did paint their faces to black and didn't mean to be racist. Sam is a hypocrite. Yeah, you might be having a point there. Like, he did this, and then he said it was a mistake. I think okay, so like maybe his way of like calling them out was like from his position of being a super influential person with lots of followers versus a couple of high school students. Maybe that like him, if it might have felt like he was punching down or something like that to some certain people. But regardless of whatever that was, like I think the backlash on it was just absolutely disproportionate, and it just did not make sense, you know. That he like whatever that was, whatever you think about, like you can say like Sam wasn't like 100% right, okay? Like he could have talked about it in another way. He could have talked about the issue in another way, in a manner that was maybe, you know, less calling out the students. But yo, like people who there's people in TV and movies that like go to jail and come back faster than this. And there's a guy that fucking killed a person. There's a celebrity that's very famous in Korea and that's still on TV. He killed a man while he was drunk driving. So that's DUI. He killed a man and then he tried to bury the corpse, and in the process he just fell asleep because he was too drunk, and the police found him like with a half buried corpse, and he still is on TV. So if he's on TV, then how the fuck is writing an Instagram post about like something that he feels he needs to voice an opinion about, you know? Let's just say like the way he expressed it was a little bit, you know, not the most not the best way to express whatever he wanted to express. But even then, like, is that such a crime? Is that such a crime? So yeah. And the sad thing is like Korean people are saying, oh, we don't need Sam anymore because we got somebody else, this Jonathan. This he's really funny. He's from the Congo, but it's kind of like, okay, we got the one black guy on TV, and now, yeah, your position has been replaced, is what basically people are saying. It's very sad. Yeah, the token black friend. Yes, exactly. So yeah, that really sucks. I hope he doesn't. I hope he's all right. If honestly, if I was him, I would just go back to Ghana. Like, I'd be done with this country. And okay, Korean birth rates have dropped significantly. Crazy drop. Literally, Korea is dying. The number of annual births have plummeted to under 250,000 for the first time in recorded history. 50% decrease from what it was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, it was a 50% decrease from 20 years ago. So we are literally 25% of 25 years ago, 20 years ago. And the very concerning factor. Okay, so for every one for one female, one woman in her fertile age is fertility rate 0.78 babies. So that's concerning. That's like the lowest. And people say like, okay, all developed countries, they have low birth rates. Korea is by far the lowest. It's just incomparable. And the saddest part is like in Seoul the fertility rate is like 0.51. So for every two couples there's one baby. It's 0.51. So every two couples, so that's 4 people. For every 4 people there's one baby. And that's just depressing. Yeah. Yeah, that's just depressing. Oh man. Yeah. You know, I think there has to be some drastic measures. Like for example, banning birth control. You know there was in Romania birth control ban. Romania had a forced birth policy in 1967. How about we just like ban the sale of condoms and just throw sex education out the window and make just everybody have babies? Because that's what Romania did. Right? Restricted abortion and contraception and was intended to create a new and large Romanian population. So they were actually like basically penalized if you didn't have a baby. And I heard like the birth rate was like over 3 to 4. And that plan absolutely failed because people like they would like heavily tax people who didn't have babies, like extremely heavily. And they had the menstrual police, which basically like they're checking if women are having periods. Romanian women were subject to compulsory monthly examinations by state doctors. And yeah, you had to be pregnant. And basically that plan failed because like, okay, they did result in a lot of people, but the problem was like these people had no like education, like the infrastructure could not support this like large influx of people. And they were like abandoned, and once the policy was ditched, like kids were like in orphanages. So yeah, it was a big failure. And apparently it was one of the reasons, it's one of the reasons why Romania has suffered economically, because like there's so many people that are just low education, low income. Mm. Yeah. Hmm. But yeah, what is Korea gonna do? That's just a very depressing statistic. Honestly, I'm thinking like maybe I should jump ship. Like Korea seems like it has no future. I legitimately think that Korea has no future. It's even if they manage to turn this around, like I think the only way they manage to turn this around is if Korea brings in a shit ton of like they open the borders and they bring in like a shit ton of immigrants. But I just can't imagine the social confusion and chaos that would ensue if suddenly like 70% of Korea are immigrants. Like just look at how like Sam Ochiri is treated for saying something a little critical about Korea. And now imagine if like 70% of Korea becomes, I guess then at that point like then like Korean people would be the minority. But yeah, I think that is literally the only way that you can make recover from this, because Korean people are definitely not gonna have babies. Mm. Yeah. So I guess the other way would be reunification with North Korea. I don't know which would be better, which would be less chaotic, but it is what it is. And before we end the stream, I'm gonna talk more about this in KST on Patreon, patreon.com/dkdktv. I will post the link here. Yeah. Let's talk more about this on Patreon. It's starting, the KST is starting right after this. And also I wanted to show you a new product that we have at Naked Soul. It's called a color drop incense holder by Stitchichi. And it's an incense holder. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, you just it's from a local design house. And this is magnet. And there's a little hole. Where's my lighter? Voila. And you can get this now on Naked Soul for $32. And they come in 3 different colors. Red. Oh fuck. Oh, that's That's strong. You can get it in 3 different colors: blue, green, and yellow. And also these pants. These pants, you can get them now on Naked Soul. We are not selling incense, but yeah, the design is really unique here. I really like the design. I actually picked this product. They make it look a lot prettier than I do. I love the colors. This entire design house is like, they're all like very strong, vivid colors, very saturated colors. So you can get this now on Naked Soul. I'll show you the pants in next stream. So go on and hit that subscribe button, and I'll be back for Tuesday stream. And I need to open my window. This is really strong. I'm literally choking. Get it now. Naked Soul. And I'll see you on Patreon. Bye bye. We'll talk more about the birth rate and also UIing on Patreon today in like 10 minutes. UIing did a lot of drugs. I'll talk about my favorite drug that I like to do. It's meth, and where I get my meth. And yeah, he's getting replaced from Hellbound 2. And if you want news articles, you can go check out our blog here. We're posting a lot of news articles now. Is UI in Hellbound for doing drugs? Bye bye.